Hey there, random internet strangers. It's Random Crypto Guy here for a midweek update. To always remember that I am not a financial advisor. Hey, do I look like a financial advisor? Uh, Take what I say with a grain of salt. If what I tell you makes you money, that's great, and if it doesn't, that's all on you as well. It's all on you. So, just giving it, just one man voicing his opinion out of a sea of thousands of opinions, man. And that's just your opinion, man. But is your opinion based on sound fundamental facts and reasoning? That's, or is it based on emotional hype and garbage, or is it based on lies? That's what really matters as far as what opinions are. But just wanted to check in midweek. Had some time waiting for my next load to get unloaded and head back to home base. But I wanted to talk about the big ass candle. The big ass candle that we had, $1,000 candle, and I know I've talked about $1,000 candles in the past, that they represent parabolic runs, at least the start of a parabolic run. Unfortunately, it's not in the right direction where we wanted it to go. It was pretty big stuff, and it's kind of hovering. We're still hovering above 95. So it did dip down a little bit, but we had a nice rejection telling me there's still a lot of buying pressure down from coming underneath. So I'm not too concerned about it. I knew that I thought it would be a little bit higher up, but the more that I thought about it, the more that it makes sense. And I'm going to go over a little bit why we keep getting rejected at this 10.5 number. I was looking at the actual rejection points, and it was starting to form that Bart Simpson's head pattern, which is pretty common. The top looks like Bart Simpson's head, and then it usually goes through a full rejection. Not always, but that just depends upon the difference between the buyers and the sellers. And been able to listen to quite a few people, their opinions on why it happened, and come to the conclusion that it's 10,000. People are chomping at the bit to go. That's 5 digits, so it's a psychological barrier, and I think a lot of people put on some leveraged longs, and because of that, there's some really smart traders with a lot of money who can just push the price around wherever they want it to, and they just got to push it just enough down to start triggering their stop orders, and then it creates this cascading effect. And it just boom, boom. I watched it. It went over a span of 45 minutes. There was a small move down, and then another small move down, and then boom. Once the stop orders started getting triggered, that was it. All those leverage orders just got liquidated. So I'm pretty sure that's what. But the question remains is, who are the people that do this? And then my conspiratorial side maybe takes over a little bit. Now, conspiracy theory, I don't buy into every conspiracy theory like flat Earth, but how conspiracy theory works is that it goes upon the absence of facts to fill that gap in. Like the conspiracy theory that space aliens came down and fucked monkeys and that made us. That's some type of conspiracy theory. Well, there's no proof because the aliens came and went, fucked a few monkeys, and then created us. But there's no proof of that the aliens have ever been there. And the only proof is that we're way smarter than monkeys. So, but there's a couple things that beg the question, well, if that's the case, how did those space aliens, how did they evolve? Did they fuck monkeys or worms or something? I don't know. So yeah, that's how conspiracy theories work. Is use the absence of facts and then fill in a speculation or a conjecture to form a hypothesis instead of using the facts available, which is what science does. But once in a while, you got to wonder. And taking a look, if you understand the fundamentals of fiat currency and how they manipulate the currency, how they inflate, how they've been pumping money into the repo market, which leaks down. It's a complicated process, but it leaks down into the corporate bonds and the corporate stocks, the corporate equities, and it inflates them, and then the tax cuts incentivize the corporations because the CEOs get paid based upon their salary is based upon the stock price. So they want the price to go up. That's their incentive to do it. It's not for the customer. It's not to sell a cheaper banana. It's to inflate the stock price, whatever it takes, and that's a no-brainer. You just buy, if you can buy back your own stock to inflate the price, why wouldn't you? Because you're the CEO and your salary is based upon that, on the stock price. So, no-brainer. So that money never really trickles down. It's stuck in people's 401ks to create a base supply for the banks to manipulate and control. And so I've got a little off tangent there, but what I'm getting at is what happens when the currency, when Bitcoin breaks 10,000. And I know it's already broke 10,000 in Canada and a few other places, but the reason why it's so important in the United States is because we're the world's reserve currency and that we dominate the market and in total market cap. And so what would happen? And what would happen is that people would start taking their money out of banks and putting it into places like Coinbase and putting it on exchanges and putting it into their wallets. Well, if you watch my video on my website, which has a disclaimer that shows that I'm not a financial advisor, I just know macroeconomics pretty well for a long-haired hippie weirdo. But that will create what's called a bank run. And if that happens, that's going to cause everything, their house of cards, to collapse. So it makes me wonder is who's really smacking down that price in order for it to keep, who would be incentivized to do that? Who would not want a $10,000 Bitcoin? And anybody that's dealing with the fiat market up at the higher levels, that's who doesn't want a $10,000. Especially right now with the system so fragile the way it is. A bank run could devastate the economy. And I think that's what they're trying to avoid. I really do. And because those smackdowns have been pretty hard. I mean, it doesn't take a lot to move this market, but when you have a central bank who prints money out of thin air, billions, hundreds of billions of dollars a month, there's a $4 trillion deficit, a balance sheet of toxic assets that they had to buy up from the banks because the banks kept fucking up and making mistakes, and so they've just been bailing them out by buying their toxic assets and just sitting on them, and then try to unwind them and unload them later on when the coast is clear. But it makes me wonder, who's smacking that down? Who would not want $10,000 Bitcoin? And it's you already hear the Steve Mnuchin saying, "Oh, it's a national security risk." And they're citing all about Swiss bank accounts and whatnot. And I just I had to think about that for a second. And I'm like, well, they already have offshore sales like Seychelles, the Cook Islands. There's BVI. There's all kinds of places where people stash money. That's all bullshit and lies. forgotten about paper called the Panama Papers, where it basically shows where all the money's going. A lot of it's in Seychelles and a few and what they call the ABCs, Aruba. I believe it's BVI, British Virgin Islands, and the Cook Islands, where you have these tax havens where people stash and hide their money and unsecured. Dominica is maybe D. Dominica doesn't have a lot of, and I'll be looking into those places into the future for some real estate deals and stuff that I'm thinking about once Bitcoin ever decides to take off. But I just wanted to go over that so I don't hear anybody really talking about it. And I know it's kind of conspiratorial. There it is, conspiratorial. But it makes me just wonder, who would benefit from other than some whales, possibly playing ping pong with the over leveraged bulls. But I don't think that's it. I don't really think that's it. Because once that thing breaks 10,000 and stays above 10,000, that's when the hype's going to begin. And I think it would create a bank run. And the last time in 2017, everything was coming up roses. Trump was president. Everything was going to be great. Everything's fantastic. He's going to slash the deficit, which he hasn't. He's actually, it's increased by 68%. But you have to look at this from a whole macro perspective and not just our tiny little sliver of the pie, the cryptocurrencies. Remember, we're approaching 200 billion, which sounds like a lot. But when you look at like bank derivatives, there's quadrillions of dollars going on in bank derivatives. It's an over-the-counter market. I don't quite understand it myself. That and options, I really haven't quite grasped the concepts behind them. I kind of understand options a little bit better. It's like an insurance policy, and then they got the way you can do straddle and strangle. But most people lose money doing that. From what I understand, 80% of options expire worthless. So it's basically an insurance policy on hedging against your bets. That's what most people use it for. That's what my understanding of it is. That's what the professionals do, and then they try to market all the retail traders that it's some great new thing with straddles and strangles and whatnot. I wouldn't. It sounds too complicated, especially with the timestamps. But it just got me thinking about that, and that's the only person I could see other than some whale. But I know that this market is small, and a whale could come along who has a couple thousand Bitcoin from way back in the day, and smack a couple coins down and make shit move. But I'm not so sure. I'm really not so sure. So just wanted to go over that today, and it's kind of just been bouncing along, and it looks like the bulls are continuing to buy. It showed a nice rejection at the bottom of that candle, and popped us back up above the 95 mark, and been kind of holding steady there, and just like last week, gradually build up from just like this week. And so we got today, the rest of today and tomorrow, and see what happens. But if it was a second candle, then I'd worry about it being a bear market. There was a second 1,000, because then that would definitely be a parabolic run, and I would probably turn tail and run, cut my losses, and try again when the market reset. But this was just a one-off glitch. I'm not sure that I'm not exactly sure though that it's just some random whale playing ping pong. I think that there's something more nefarious to this, because the fiat system is so fragile at this point. So I just wanted to go over that, and thank you all for watching my channel. Please click like and subscribe. Come check out my website. I'm still working on it. I'm out here driving. I can't drive and work on my website or trade or anything. That's why I got into crypto, because it's more of an investment for me than a trading opportunity. I do know how to trade, but just don't have time. So Thanks for stopping by. Click like and subscribe, and check out my website at randomforexguide.com.